because a lot of people are going to suffer because if you have a $36 billion budget debt and a massive deficit and we're paying interest on that debt, which means that money doesn't go into other projects, the governor's saying you got to pay it down, and no one's disagreeing with that. So, Jim, jump back in. Final comments on healthcare.
Just wanted to say that I agree with the professor. It shouldn't be mandated, but there should be aid and assistance available and made available. Through the government, through private sectors, everybody wants their cut. And what's happening is the people who can't afford to pay are the people who are suffering.
What about if it means higher taxes in order to do it? Because you can forget about the private sector. They're not giving you a grant, Jim. They're not. Because market forces don't mean here's a grant. It means expect the government to do what the private sector hasn't figured out how to way to make money doing it. If, in fact, it means higher taxes, are you supportive of that, Eve?
Yes, I'm supportive of a compassionate budget that looks at the needs of all people in the state.
But we're going to have outrage
What do you
if
mean?
we raise the taxes, right?
Well, I'm not saying we should raise taxes, but what I'm saying is I'm looking at the government figuring out the best way to deliver services to people across the board. And I agree that there has to be some sort of tie-in to business. A public-private partnership is most important. And the governor, and actually if he was going to be here, that's what I was going to talk to him about.
What were you going to ask him?
Well, I was going to talk to him about public-private partnership. Because,
Give us for him, break that down.
Well, for example, the school that I run is a public-private partnership.
Describe it. It's the Montclair Pre-K.
Montclair Community Pre-K is a not-for-profit organization, but we were formed by our own township in Montclair, and we're subsidized by the township. So it's a public-private. We're a private, not-for-profit.
Do parents pay?
Parents pay
Yeah, I know.
to
I'm
attend,
one of the parents.
and you're
We
one
have
of
two
them.
of our kids there,
That's
Nick and
right.
Chris, 3 and 5.
We charge you double.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's no special deal.
Right.
Apparently having you here has only cost me more. So go ahead. So parents pay, plus there's public money. Is that what you mean by a public-private partnership?
Yes, and parents pay. People who can afford pay what they can afford to pay.
Is there a sliding scale?
There's a sliding scale. People who, if you can't afford, then you don't pay anything. But if you can afford, you pay what you can afford. And there is something in that model.
I've got no problem with
That's
the
an
sliding
interesting
scale.
model. You like that?
I've got no problem
That
with
model
sliding
could
scale.
work for healthcare?
The problem is that the scales are very low.
Oh, so by the standards set by the government, by the way, Eve, you don't set the standards, the government sets the standards.
Well, we set our standards, but the government.
The government has to sign off on those standards.
Yeah, I mean the township. Just
Okay,
the
that's the
township.
government. And what Jim is saying, before we get off this, is the bar's too low. And that Jim ultimately...
No, the bar's too high.
The bar's too high, and that Jim would ultimately
You
have
wouldn't
to
fall in
become
the sliding
poor,
scale.
have to fall into poverty in order for the state or the federal government to step in and help him. And that's not
You
right.
have to be at one end of the spectrum or the other.
And if you're where
if
you are...
in where I am and I'm just about eking out a living
Right.
on Social Security and a few minor investments and whatever, that I can live on, but I cannot do the extras. I can't take care of the emergencies. My wife, I had to cut her back a day. That's how I saved money, cutting her back. Now she only goes 4 days to daycare instead of 5. And you say, well, okay, so you've retired, she stays home. But that's a drain on me. I take care of her when she's home.
A lot of pain.
I'm stuck at home. In fact, I was stuck at home for the last 4 days. She had a cold, and so
What happens when you
had
come
to
here?
stay home. My daughter had to take a day off from work, come down and stay with her.
We appreciate you being here. Let me try this. I'm going to move to the broader discussion of pain, and because Jim was talking about it from a personal perspective. Let's try to do this without having an arcane policy discussion that people can't follow. Look, the governor, and everyone's going to be following us over the next several months, and the whole idea of democracy works is to try to put these issues out there, and you decide. You decide what you think, but they're tough choices. By the way, put up the information about the May live call-in with Governor Corzine, the Corzine on the Line live program done out of the studios at 13 WNET, simulcast on a variety of PBS systems. It's going to be our partners at the Star Ledger, NJ.com. It's going to be streaming on their website as well, taking questions over the next couple of months. Please call in with your questions, log on with your questions. We'll try to incorporate them into the program with the governor. But the governor said, look, and let's go through some of these. Governor said, we're going to have to cut back. If everyone says they want to cut, we're going to cut. The governor's whole idea was out there. Help me on this, Professor. The governor proposed originally, and obviously it's dead at this point, it's not going to happen, the debt restructuring plan. He said, look, We need to raise tolls on the Garden State Parkway, the Atlantic City Expressway, and the New Jersey Turnpike 50% 4 separate times over the next 15 or 20 years, which will bring in billions of dollars. We set up a separate corporation, blah, 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 nonprofit, to use that money to pay down on the debt. That's not going to happen. But tolls will go up. Why did the governor catch that kind of resistance to a plan that was going to pay down on the debt when, in fact, everybody says we've got to pay our bills?
Well, I think in part the governor created this arcane, complex plan. It was not very easy to articulate and spell out and explain. He was going to create a public benefits corporation, which was another government entity.
So he didn't do a great job explaining it. It was complex.
Didn't do a good job selling it. And also, it was a fundamental question. He was going to borrow money to pay down money that we already owe. And it wasn't necessarily just restructuring debt. If you refinance at a lower rate, everybody understands
we do that with our homes,
that makes sense, right?
Rates are lower, we're getting in.
Jump in.
That's not that? It wasn't that?
That wasn't part of it, no. In fact, we would probably end up borrowing at a higher rate because of this untested public benefits corporation to pay down existing debt.
So you didn't like that?
No, I thought this plan was just too complex. If we wanted to raise tolls to pay down the debt, let's just do that.
And by the way, remember, it's also increasing tolls, and the governor told us recently that tolls are going up anyway. They may not go up as drastically as he's proposed, but tolls are going up anyway for another reason, because roads and bridges need to be fixed, and we need a stable source of funding to do that. Angel, were you against the governor's idea as soon as you saw the percentage of increase being proposed on the tolls, like 50%, 50%?
Oh, absolutely.
That was it for you?
That was it.
Why?
Because I'm a commuter.
Talk about that.
Okay, so I live down by Trenton, and I work in Elizabeth, New Jersey City area.
What roads are you on?
Turnpike.
Oh, boy.
So, you know, for me to all of a sudden hit, and I have Easy Pass, so I get a little bit of a break.
Right.
All of a sudden, 50%, a couple of years later, another 50%, another 50%. So I don't know if he was taking into consideration that oil is over $100 a barrel.
Right.
I have a small pickup truck that costs me $50 to fill, and I use regular gas. So we have to assume that gas is going to continue to go up, okay? So I put 30,000 miles on my truck if I drive in every day. Figure every 3 years I got to buy a new truck.
Yeah, but Angel, let me play devil's advocate. The governor said, listen, I don't want to do this. He said, it's unpopular with me, but I know I have to do this because A, we have to pay down on the debt, and B, we've got to get a source of money so that you're not riding into a pothole and all of a sudden your tire falls off or, God forbid, there's an accident. He doesn't want you to have to do that, but the governor's saying, you didn't elect me for me to tell you everything you want to hear. You elected me to tell you the bad news and put an idea out there. So everyone goes to these town meetings and says, terrible idea, Governor. You're ridiculous. And he says, okay, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do about the debt? The debt's not going away, but you're still against his way of paying it down.
But I think he did it backwards, Steve.
What do you mean he did it backwards?
Well, I think when he went to those town meetings, he started telling them what he was going to do rather than started by listening and talking about what the problems were. And I think that's...
He knows what the problem is with $36 billion in debt.
No, but it's not just about tolls. We have so many problems here in New Jersey, and we have so many things that have to be fixed. And he went around the state and talked about tolls, and that was the first thing he did. He showed a slideshow about tolls. And I think he needed to change the format of the way he presented
So it was
articulated
presentation with you,
it.
Marge? I'll come back to you.
Yeah,
It was
I do
presentation with
think-
you, Marge?
You know, I come from a finance head. He came in, and most people aren't financial heads. That's number
Right.
one. For me to look at what he put up on the board, it made sense to me because I understand finance.
Right.
So what has to happen is that we have to educate our citizens more on understanding how to read a balanced profit and loss statement.
That's not happening.
I know that, but I'm just saying
But he
what he
didn't
put
do
up.
that.
What he put up made sense to some people who understand finance.
But
He
you're not
comes
the
from a
average
Wall Street.
person.
So what he has to do is have somebody else sometimes prepare the citizens versus himself. Now, the debt's not going away. In 1997, we were $3 million in debt. Now we're up to $36 million in debt. Okay, he's the bearer of
By
bad
the way, we'll
news.
continue this discussion in the second half of this program. Just keep going.
But he's he's the bearer of bad news that everybody kept saying, okay, fine, special interest.
Important decisions are being made in Washington that will affect all of us. Hi, I'm Paul Gaffney, president of Monmouth University. Democracy Works explores the democratic process while educating citizens about the challenges facing our elected officials. That's why we're proud to help create an informed electorate by supporting Democracy Works. Thanks for watching.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you would like to express an opinion, email us at democracyworks@caucusnj.org, or visit us online at www.democracyworksnj.org. The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 20 years of broadcast excellence. NJN Public Television and 13 WNET, New York. Major funding for Democracy Works has been provided by the New Jersey Carpenter Contractor Trust, New Jersey Natural Gas, Qualcare, Monmouth University, the Fund for New Jersey, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, Community Education Centers, St. Barnabas Healthcare System, Hill Wallach LLP, Johnson & Johnson, the New Jersey Education Association, Judy and Josh Weston, and the Provident Bank. Additional funding has been provided by these public-spirited organizations. Promotional support provided by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey.